hostess, Kasama Lee. And I just want to, just in case you don't know or never heard of Umpqua Bank, I want to give you a brief introduction. My name is Denise Chisley, and I'm the store manager here in American Canyon. We've been here approximately, I guess about 8 years as Umpqua Bank, and we are a community bank. So, and we love to host events here, so we do more than just banking. Excuse me, I have a cold, so you have to bear with me. What I want to say is that I want to congratulate each and every one of you for attending today, investing time and also into your future, especially the students. It's really, really nice to be integral part of that, and that's what our bank is about. And for me, I wear many hats in our community. So first of all, I am a parent of my 2 kids over there. I'm proud of them, so I have to, you guys can say hi. You're always putting us on the spot. One of the things that is dear and valuable to me is that outside of banking, I have my own personal, what do you call, values. And part of that is to just really give back to the community, or just help in any way that I can with, people in need, or anything that I can contribute to, and if it can be helpful. So working for an employer that mirrors that philosophy or my value system, it's been a real blessing for me. The way Kasama and I met is through the volunteer opportunities, and our company encourages each associate to volunteer, and to find your passion. The bank as a whole, we kind of focus on youth education and arts and music, but encourages each and every one of our associates to do at least 40 hours. And the thing about that is we also tell them not to worry. If you want to do it during business hours, we have to schedule it. However, they're not going to lose compensation. So that's a little bit different, because I've worked for many other banks and never heard of that before. So they really mean what they say. If we're profitable, part of our mission statement is to give back to the community. When we make let's say money, not just monetarily, but really devoting time and that human experience, relationships, building relationships. So this is how Kasama and I met. I volunteered at the Family Resource Center, served on the board, and so did Kasama. And then through that, working together for the community, we've, it's been many years, but we continue to have this bond and relationship. So we complement each other. The work that she does is awesome. And I told her, I definitely want my children to be involved in this. Well, I should say I don't know, children sounds like they're youthful, but really wanted to get involved. And I asked her, what can I do? If you need a place, let me just, talk to my employer. We will open it up. So that's why we have it here at the bank. And there's many other things that we focus on. So thank you for coming. And I'm just going to go on all night long, because I like to talk, especially about a great subject. So anyway, congratulations to all of you. And I did have some refreshments there. There's some information about our banking if you're interested. And for housekeeping's sake, you can, if you need to use the restroom, there will be, just down to the right side over there, there'll be a restroom there so you can help yourself. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, thank you for being here. I was having a little panic attack that we didn't have enough chairs. And now we got people who want to stand because they've been sitting all day. That's also a good problem. So, first of all, I just truly, truly want to thank Denise. And I can't say enough about, when she said we bonded, you have no idea. When you have connected with people who just, their hearts are about serving the community, and that's what this bank does. And when she says, I want to help, how can I help? And she actually helped me. This was actually her idea, and I shared it with some of the parents that, I told her about this program, and she knew that I had been doing leadership development and been in the industry for over 6 years. She says, I know what you do, but I think that the other parents would like to peek in right? So you're peakers. Did you know that? That was supposed to be funny. And nobody Thank you. So you're peeking in on a little bit on what is about to be rolled out in collaboration with the City of American Canyon, which is the Young Leadership Academy program. So thank you for being here. And some of you actually had called me today at the last minute asking if you could still come, so I appreciate your being here. So a little bit about that. Again, thank you, Denise. You're welcome. I basically started a company called Young Leadership Academy very recently, and it kind of, the conception of it started when I created a Teens in Leadership program at American Canyon High School, working with the American Canyon High School students. You see some pictures a little bit later on. And as things progressed and the feedback, which is key of why I continue to do this work, from the students, in how the work that we've been doing together has impacted them and how they're taking it with them, has really given me the validation that this is critically important, this leadership development work. And you're going to hear more, a little bit more about the kind of stuff that I do with them, and also sort of a informational piece about the courses in the Young Leadership Academy that's going to be starting. And if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to just ask questions. This is kind of informal, so don't feel that you can't, like, if, you know how, and maybe it's just me, because it's old age, right? When you have a question, you don't ask it, and 15 minutes later, you're like, man, I had a question. So if that's the case, just feel free, and we'll interact, and I'm going to be respectful of your time, so we're going to end right at 7:30. I have my watch out, and if I go over, just throw something at me. Deal? Deal. Okay. Oh, wow, I gotta, yeah, okay. All right, so here's a little bit about the program, okay? You may ask me, well, why, Kasama, why? Because I actually had some parents ask me this, and by the way, I've gotten some really great feedback from the parents saying that this is so needed. I mean, and it's really great to hear that. But this one parent, like, took me out to lunch and he said, can I ask you something? You've been working with adults. Why do you want to work with kids? Like, why do you want to work with teenagers? And the best way that I can tell you, I thought you might want to know this as well, maybe not, so we'll just go through it anyway, okay? Is that when I came here to the US when I was 14, I was clearly a dorky kid, and it's okay, because I was dorky. I didn't fit in anywhere. I could not speak a word of English. I was picked on. And I decided, my parents had already moved here prior, and I don't have any brothers and sisters. And I decided, you know what? I got to make this work. And it was a defining moment for me. It was the first one where I said, you know what? I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to master it as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to make a life here. And that was when I started to realize that at that age, can you imagine being 14? How many of you have a ex-14-year-old, a currently 14-year-old? Okay, like all your hands should be, or to be 14-year-old. Then all the hands should go up, right? It's confusing, isn't it? It's about trying to fit in. It's about figuring out who you are. So I went through that whole phase, and then I thought, you know what? It just became clear to me that for me, I decided that if I was going to want to do something, I was going to make it happen, and it was going to start with me. And so that kind of just sort of transpired through years of various careers in sales and executive corporate environment, sitting on a few boards, and said, nah, board is not my thing, right? But, I have learned that in about 6 years ago, I got into a leadership development industry, and then I realized, oh my goodness, to lead, you got to grow. And that's personal growth, right? And that's really growing yourself before you can impact or influence anybody else. And I fell in love with that piece of leadership development and seeing and to be able to empower and help other people be impacted in their growth as well. Because the sky's the limit when you know that it starts with you, right? So having said all of that, I've studied the work of the late Stephen Covey, the Jim Rohn, the Zig Ziglar, the Darren Hardy, and the John C. Maxwell. Well, I've gotten to, I decided I really wanted to master this industry. And I learned that John Maxwell had started offering a leadership development coaching certification. So what did I do? I made my way and I got myself connected to learn from him directly. And some of his work, not just his work, leadership development, I can tell you has changed my life. Changed my life. In how the perspective, it's made me a better mother, a better friend, a better wife, a better contributor to the communities, and hopefully have had some impact on the teens that I've worked with, okay? So there's no question in that. Now, this was a picture that a friend took when I spoke at American Canyon High School at the National Honor Society. And one of the things that I talked about, which kind of scared me when I realized that the parents were there, so I was like, oh no, they're going to throw something at me because I'm telling them to think out of the box and dream big and find their passion, right? And then a few of the parents actually came up to me and said, we needed to hear that as parents. And I'm glad that you're saying this to our kids. So that's been my passion. It's about really finding you before you can go impact the world, right? Or your community, or whatever it is that you decide to do. So that's a little bit about why. Then I decided, and then I fell in love. I started working with the kids, and they have fed me so much because they have this desire, right? This hunger to learn, this wanting to apply it, no fears. They're just like, ooh, I'm gonna try that, right? And then they'll come back and check in and tell us what they've done that's different and how it's helped them. And you're gonna hear from a couple of the students who have been participating in Teens in Leadership in just a little bit, okay? So that's the why. Now, some of the work that I've done with the students, I created the Teens in Leadership program in September 2012. This program didn't exist. I mean, this was a name that I sat down with Roderick Sweeney at Department of Parks and Rec and decided to give it that name, okay? Co-created Career Day at ACHS, which is American Canyon High School, in last year. That was the first year, and it turned out to be a great success. And we're going to repeat it again in April of this year. It's this year already. We were just last week, 2 weeks ago. Teens in Leadership Training, TILT, I was one of the 3 instructors that actually was collaborated by a group of business people with a vision to make a difference in the teens community. And there were some counselors and teachers in NVUSD, which is Napa Valley Unified School District. And we did that in November, and it was broadcasted to all of the high schools in NVUSD through their broadcasting system. So it was blessed by the superintendent and so on and so forth on the work that we were doing. I did a piece on hero, characteristics of a hero at the Silverado Middle School, which is, the characteristics are quite similar to leaders, right? When you're a hero, you do things a little bit different than most people. Upcoming, I'm going to be one of the instructors for Super Saturday programs, if you're familiar with Super Saturdays. I don't know if all the schools have it. Super Saturdays, at least in NVUSD, is certain designated Saturdays at every school. It's for the kids who miss classes, and they can make them up by attending Super Saturdays. So I'm going to be doing a block on leadership development. Just had a meeting on that this morning at Napa High and probably at American Canyon Middle School and maybe the high school as well. Now, why leadership development? Why does it change people's lives? Why does it change everything? Because what most people think, or at least before I was exposed to leadership development, it's almost like if you take the wrong turn, it's either you win or you fail. And you look at successful people or people that have achieved, beyond what they thought was possible, it's because they took the right turn or the correct turn, right? But in reality, it's about failing, 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 and failing forward until you create success and you learn from your mistakes and from your failures, right? Well, this is eye-opening to a lot of people, especially, can you imagine the teens? They're like, oh, you mean I gotta work really hard and make mistakes? And yes, but don't let go. right? If it's something that you're passionate about. So that's the kind of, the underlying principle that we base everything on. Now, these are some of the pictures. When we started, yeah, so this was when, see there's Kylie right there, right? And if you remember the old days, we did it at the Senior Multi-Use Center, and it was kind of a hike. The kids had to take the bus, got to get rides, it was crazy. And some days I would have, and I was doing the class once a week after school, some days we would have one kid, but I never stopped because they kept coming back, right? You can't stop, they keep coming back. And then I realized that the facility wasn't the right place because it was harder to get them there, right? Not to mention it's after school. So we decided, I had to jump through some hoops at the time to get a classroom in the high school to do that. And this is what happened. You see how we grew? This was this year. This is just the first part of when school started. And I have to tell you, there's a relationship that's being created from kids who didn't know each other, who now have become great friends. And they stay connected because now they're speaking the same language, if that makes sense. It's about doing bigger things. It's about being out of the box. It's about thinking creatively. It's about finding your lane, your strength, and developing it. It's about encouraging each other. One of the things we talk about in a group, just to give you an idea, we set house rules, like Denise said, house rules, bathroom is that way. Our house rule is we don't judge each other. We're not allowed, we're not in a position to judge anyone just because they have a different thought. We embrace everybody and we encourage people to express themselves, because when you feel judged, what do? You do what Carrie's doing. You don't say anything, right? Why would you say anything? You're going to be judged. You don't want to be different. So we end up in this box. So we open that up, and it's a safe space where we can share and we can talk about what's on our minds. And one of the kids actually said at the end, he stood up and he said, you know, I want to say something. He said, it's really good to know that I'm not the only one who thinks differently. It's good to know that there's a group of us. And can you imagine what they can do with that? So I'm going to tell you what they've done with that, okay? So I was asked to be, you know, Relay for Life, right? Community, big community event. They asked me to be the youth engagement chair. I don't know why, but it had to do with the teens, so I said, okay, is this a lot of work? You know, like I didn't know. Well, anyway, I took some of the kids with me. One of them's here, Paolo's here. So they went kind of crazy over here. We were at the Relay, you know, launch meeting. Some of them had never been to Relay before, right? So here's what happened. So this is the result I want you to pay attention to, okay? They put together, on their own, you know, at their own time, on their own prompting. By the way, they decided, one of them stood up and said, we got to start a team for ACHS. And the other one goes, I'm going to text my cousin right now, and we're going to like start a team. And I was watching this thing, and I thought, you know what, this is how leadership happens, doesn't it? When you put them in that kind of environment, and you give them the food that they need. So anyway, they started a team. We're working on fundraising now. That's another whole issue, right? But they got together at one of the students' house and made ornaments. They had an ornaments making party, and you know, spent all day doing that, right? To sell, to raise money for their team. So they did that, and then we had a breakfast pancake with Santa, which was a huge event. It was like 500 people showed up in town, right? And the kids, there were 9 of them there, and they were exposed from Teens in Leadership, which I was so proud, and they didn't know, right? So they put Relay Teens in Leadership team, which was so awesome. And they served the food. They were there from setting up to taking down hours, serving hundreds of people. Again, many of them had never been exposed. They didn't even know what Relay was. But they were making a difference in the community, right? How many of you went to Relay to eat? Okay. You saw them, right? They were there or they were off? Went in the bathroom? Okay. Anyway, so this was them. This was the 8 of them, and there's another student who wasn't there, and they took this picture with Santa at the end. Face painting, all kinds of stuff, okay? Oh, this is where I'm supposed to introduce the video. So I figure the best way that I can show you what I do is to show you what I do. So it's a 2-minute clip. Do not fall asleep, please. We're not dimming the light. But this was the part of the talk that I did at ACHS, and just kind of get a feel of the interaction, because we interact a lot, and especially when we work in a group. And it was important that I knew that the kids were engaged. So here it is. You have to struggle to remember somebody's name, especially in business. They'll remember you the next time. So then I realized, in the real world, it pays to be different. It's good to stand out. Your uniqueness is what makes you stand out of the crowd. Inside of you right now, and I want you to hear me clearly, there's a song inside of you. I shared this with the guys in the teams and leadership, and they were wriggling out of their seat. There is a song inside of you that can only be sung by you, that people need to hear. That's your uniqueness. It's your passion. That's your purpose, right? You know how when you tune into a radio station to listen to the kind of songs that you like, right? And then you tune in one day, all those songs are gone, and there's a different kind of song that are playing. What would you do?
Sing your old song.
You would sing your own song, or you would tune to a new station, wouldn't you? You keep singing your song, and some of you may not know what I'm talking about, but someday you will. When you find that song inside of you, keep singing it until the right people tune into your station. You don't change it. Be firm and find your passion and discover it and explore it and live your life in alignment with that. Because the right people will find you, won't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you got me all excited.
Good.
Thank you. That's really what this is about. It's about, you can only lead if you're true to yourself, right? So that was a little bit about the kind of stuff that I do with the kids. Now, a little bit about the program, you can see a larger version of it. But basically, I've decided to put together a John Maxwell-based program. I told you I was certified through the program. So I've done work with business people, entrepreneurs, and executive team on leadership development. And I decided that to put this curriculum together, it would be a pathway for the kids, and it starts with them. So the first one, so there are 3 different modules. Each module is 12 weeks long. Okay, it's on Saturday morning from 9 to 10:30. The first module is about finding themselves and developing their personal map, because one of the things that I get when I work with them is that they're trying to figure out, I'm worried about, like, I don't know what my major is, I don't know what I like. We talk about stuff like that in teens and leadership, like, what you're good at may not be, or what you get good grades at may not be what you love. Does that make sense? But it's really just finding that about themselves, find their own song. And we're going to base it on this book, okay? Put Your Dream to the Test. It's a perfect book for youth, actually, and what I've done is I've modified the content so it fits their conversation. This is for the high school students. I'm going to talk about the middle school students in just a little bit. But it's about what's your reality, what's your passion, what's your path, who are in your circle, right? The inner circle, the people that you hang out with, and how they influence us. So it's the kind of stuff where it's every week there's a facilitated kind of questions that we go through. They're going to read a chapter. There's no homework. They're going to read a chapter, and we're going to do the work together, right? It's all hands-on. It's not about more homework, because who needs more homework, right? I don't. So it's about really working through together and discussions and peer discussion, which is powerful, because this is when the students discover that they're not alone, right? That can be very powerful when you know that there are other minds that think the way I do, and they want to do more, and they want to pop out of the box. So that's the kind of stuff that we do, and I ask a lot of questions that get them to explore themselves. And that's why not judging is so important in what we do. Because you should be able to say how you feel, right? As opposed to saying what is right or what is expected or accepted. So that's the first module. And then the second module has to do with your today determines your tomorrow. It's about your habits, about your attitude. It's about the challenges that you go through now. So we base it on the Today Matters book. The chapter's about 15 to 20 pages, so it's not like that big of a heavy load of reading. And from what I learned from the high school students, some of them are doing this class. What's the name of the book? Search? Man's Search for Meaning. They love it because it's about introspective, you know, about like standing tall when you've got all adversities coming at you. And they've spent a whole semester on that. So, but that's the kind of stuff that gets them thinking about now. You know, sometimes when I talk to the kids and it's about the communication challenges and things like that, it's actually, you know, sometimes I talk to them and I go, do you know that you can actually change that, the dynamic of that? And it starts with you, not your brother, sister, cousin, parents. It starts with you. And they're like, oh, I can change that, right? How do I send my parents to class? No, it's not about sending your parents to class. It's about starting with you. It's never about somebody else, is it? Right? So that's what we do with establishing some habits and really set up their framework, right? And every student's going to be different. And then the last one, the third module, now you're ready to lead, right? Because we've been working on, you can't impact someone until you're growing and you have become that person of influence. And this is, if you're not familiar with this book, it's all over the world. The book is being used in corporations, in faith-based organizations, in government agencies, 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Just curious, how many of you have heard of John Maxwell? Okay, good, good. So, you know, his work is being, so when I do leadership development facilitation for companies or individuals, it's all based out of these books, and a lot of people have never heard of him because he doesn't really promote himself like that, okay? So, but it's powerful stuff, and if it's work for adults, can you imagine what it would do to the teens? Starting now. It's never too early to grow and develop, is it? Right? So that's the stuff that we're going to be doing. Also with that, there's creative thinking, self-resource. They're going to get a workbook, which is this workbook. You can peek at it later on if you'd like. I put them a few beginning chapters so you can see the kind of stuff that we would be doing together, and they would each get a workbook so that it gives them a direction. You know, so it's not just reading. I mean, anybody can read. You don't need this, right? You can read at home. But what do you do with what you read, and how do you apply it with your life now? Okay? Real life application, practical and personal project. When at the end, what they get is this version of a certificate of completion from each module, and they can use that for their job application, right? College application. I've actually met with the superintendent of NVUSD and the director of curriculum, and they said, you know, these certificates make the kids stand out. Because everybody graduates, hopefully, right? But what do they show for? What have they done outside of that? I actually had a parent who contacted me and said, I want my child in your program because his whole thing is about leadership. And I want him to have something to say that he attended some kind of like certified leadership thing. So this is going to be a great tool for them as well. And leadership assessment. So at the end of each module, we're going to do an assessment. So it's going to be individualized to each one of the students, where I'm going to be assessing with them, and they're going to be assessed peer. You know, 360, have you heard of that? The whole peer is going to assess, but we do it in a constructive way. It's not about, you know, what a loser you are, but it's about how can you improve? What were the things that inspired me about you? What were the things that you said? You know, sometimes when you get the right mirror in front of you, it's amazing what you can see, isn't it? Right? So it's about that, okay? So that's the program for the high school. Now, why is this all so important now? You know, leadership development wasn't a big deal before, but now it's about distinction, it's about standing out, it's about why do you need to be different? Why? Because this is USA Today article in 2012. Half of new college graduates are jobless or unemployed because of the economy. How many of you knew this already? Have heard of this, right? So, I mean, that's kind of depressing, but here's the deal. We got to adapt to it, don't we? The kids have to adapt to it. This is not going to change in the next 3 or 4 years. The economy, right? And we can't push a different button. So what are we going to do with the teens that are up and coming? They're going to go through college, they're going to graduate, and they're going to go, man, I can't get a job, right? But if we prepare them now so that they can be an out-of-the-box thinker, be a more effective communicator than the competition, hopefully, right? So they would get selected, they would get promoted, because they're doing above and beyond what's expected, the minimum. So that's the first piece. The other piece is, this is CNBC article in 2013, U.S. entrepreneurship reaches 14-year high. Because during the depths of the recession following the 2008 financial crisis, Americans who were frustrated with not being able to find work took the bold step of opening their own small businesses out of necessity. Not because they don't feel like working for someone, right? So this is the kind of stuff that ties into when I work with the kids. I always, and the kids that have worked with me know, I bring in real life applications, conversations, that kind of stuff, so that they're not surprised when they get out of school how the world really works, okay? So now, one of my favorite, world changers, right? He's a leader. The late Steve Jobs says, you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing because it is so hard if you don't. Any rational person would give up. Because if you haven't found your grip, right? It's easier to say, well, it doesn't work, I'm going to quit. But if it's something that you really want to do, you have no choice but to get extraordinary at it. Wouldn't you? You want to get good if it's something that you love. Can you tell I'm passionate about this?
Yeah.
Breaking a sweat here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a little bit about the work that I did at Silverado Middle School. Now, I got to tell you, 2 years ago, working with the high school students was not on my radar. I was not like, ooh, I want to work with kids. Like, I have 2 kids, right? Middle school. I don't even have a high schooler, middle school and elementary school. But it was the path that led me to realize that, man, there is some serious work that I can make a difference here. So then they invited me, so this is how things start spreading, right? So they invited me to speak at the middle school. I'm like, oh, I don't know, like talking to 6th graders, like my kid is a 6th grader. So I went, it was like 200 students. I thought, okay, this has got to be fun, or, they're going to like boo me or something. So this was a little clip on that, okay?
Defining moments when a hero stands up. And most people do what? They curl up and they hide. Out of fear, out of frustration. At any moment in your life, it's a choice. How you respond in your defining moments. I want you to remember that, okay? How many of you have had some defining moments in your life when you're up against the wall, you're frustrated, you're upset, you're angry, you have to decide what to do? How many? Awesome. Awesome. And for some of you who may not be able to think of one right now, I promise you, you will have a series of defining moments in your life where you can choose to stand up and make a difference. Make a difference for others. Or you can choose to do nothing. Okay? All right. What's the deal with this? So this kitty cat looks in the mirror. How many of you have a mirror at home? At least one. Okay, so we can do this exercise at home, okay? This little kitty cat looks in the mirror and sees what? Somebody just mentioned the non-human movie. Okay, so the cat sees what is bigger than him, right? Or her. Correct? Is that a choice? Every single day, you can decide to see what you see in the mirror. You can see somebody who's really small, who's sad, or you can see somebody who's brave and courageous. What do you choose to see in the mirror? Right? See a lion? I love it. Right? You have my permission to choose to see what's in the mirror. Oh, wait. Okay.
Talk a little bit about that. We had a blast. Like, we had to shh, because there was so much interaction going on, which was awesome. That was when I knew I could work with the middle schoolers. I had to go test it out, right? So then I got some phone calls from the parents saying, what about the middle school students? Can you do something with them, right? I thought, okay, I can do this. So here's what happens. We're going to roll out the class, leadership class at the middle school, ACMS. I met with the principal. Like, there's a whole lot of support around this, and this is the other reason that I know that this is what is needed. We're going to address, bullying. We're going to address role model. We're going to address what leadership is really about, and preparing them, more importantly, for high school, right? Because some of the high school students that I talked to, they're like, I didn't know what to expect, and I was like shocked when I got to high school. Like, it was a different world. So to prepare them, and so this is kind of the outline, and for those of you who have middle school students, I have this very same page that you can take with you, okay? But there's some stuff that I've already kind of prepared for, their roadmap, preparing. Each month there's going to be a theme, right? And that's a theme, and those are the breakout topics. Preparing for high school, and this is where, because I have some connection with some really great role models from high school, wink, wink, so they're going to be able to come and share and speak to the middle schoolers, and it'll be their way of giving back to the community, right? And to really share with them what it would mean to prepare for high school, because I don't know, right? It's been a while for me. Your image, role model, leadership, being a difference maker, even at that age. Do you know, when I started talking to somebody about this, they said, it needs to really start at 4th grade. I'm like, wait a minute. Let me get to the middle school and high school first, right? Communication, how do you speak and be heard? Especially with how do you stand up for something that you know is right? How do you help someone by just communicating, right? As opposed to doing nothing. So that's middle school program. Now, these are, I have to tell you, these are letters, emails that have been sent to me from the students. And there was a picture at the beginning that had to do with, I don't know if you saw the balloons, the bouquet of balloons. That was the kids that I was working with that surprised me. They kept me out of the classroom. I was coming to class. It was right before Christmas, and they said, you can't come in yet, you can't. And they kept peeking out, and finally they let me in. And there was this bouquet of balloons, and each string had a letter, handwritten by each of them, scrolled up. And I read it. I thought I read it on Christmas Day, but it was the next morning, and it was overwhelming, how it's impacted them. And that's why I know this is the work that is needed in this generation. So that's just some of them. So at this point, and this is on the website as well, so you don't have to do the reading thing here, but I just wanted to share that with you because I can't speak for how it impacts them better than they can speak for themselves. So at this point, I'd like to ask, I did specifically ask some of the students that I've worked with in the past, and we've been sort of like family. We're texting each other and all that good stuff, and keeping up with their progress, and when they want advice, if I can, I would give it. So I'd like for Kylie to come up and maybe share a few words, whatever it is that you'd like to share, and then you can come up too. You two can come up and keep each other company up here. So can you give a round of applause? This is not rehearsed.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I'm a junior from American Canyon High School. I've actually been through many leadership programs, and from my first day with Kasama, I could tell teens and leadership is unlike anything I've ever been through before. The first day, Kasama asked me who my biggest role model is and what qualities I admire in them. And I had never been asked that question before. But I realized I really admire people who are passionate about what they do and give 100% of themselves to things that they really care about. And then she asked us, what of all these qualities have we talked about, do you most want to see in yourself? And I realized I wanted to be more passionate. I wanted to give more of myself to the things that I really care about. And, I realized, most leadership programs have lectured me and they have told me 1, 2, 3, this is how you become a leader and this is the things that you need to do to become the best type of leader. Kasama was the first person who made me look at myself, and she let me answer the questions. And it became kind of a habit after more and more sessions that I could look at myself and I could see the things that I wanted to improve in myself. And Kasama really helped me create goals and change just little things so I could start developing into the leader that I thought people should follow. And I started seeing changes in my everyday life. I started committing myself to things that I thought I was passionate about. And I started to distance myself from things that I believed weren't being a good influence in my life. I started to feel more confident in myself and my leadership skills because I knew what type of leader I wanted to be. And most importantly, I started to mold myself instead of letting my surroundings mold me. And while I'm still developing myself, I cannot be more grateful to Teens in Leadership for the changes it has made me cause in myself.
So once again, my name is Paulo, and I think I started attending Teens in Leadership at the end of my junior year, and I continued to the beginning of my senior year. So I remember the first session, one of the questions that Kasama asked was, so what did you do over your summer? So I practically were like, oh, I really didn't do anything because it's summer. So I practically just like stayed in like my bed and did nothing. So, and then we just talked about how like basics of being a leader and just basics of being a good person. And then at the end of the session, she talked about, so what are you gonna do during the school year, and what are you gonna do next summer? So just reevaluating what I did last summer helped me just focus on just changing everything and like making sure that like I'm actually gonna be productive and do things this like the upcoming year. So I guess my senior year, I've actually really applied all the things that Kasama has taught me in like the leadership things and the like leadership events and activities that I am part of at school. And it's crazy because like I never knew that I had like these actual abilities to do things like at school and lead things. And so just being able to do that and actually impact people and actually make a difference and like be organized all at the same time and be professional has just like helped me. So, and I just want to thank like Kasama again for all the work that she's doing and all the leadership training and just being like very passionate about this program and everything that she does. So yes, yeah.
Very good.
Well, imagine a room of like 20 of them like this. It's like, what else would I want to do with my life? No, this is what I want to do when I grow up. Work with the team so they can change the world, right? They're our next generation. We're not going to be here forever, right? So that's a little bit about them. Thank you so much for sharing. The reason that I started the curriculum, you wonder why, well, why can't they just continue Teens in Leadership? Well, a lot of kids can't make it on Teens in Leadership because of activities, it's after school, right? And it's a drop-in, so I had to be creative with how I work with them. Every week, it's topic-based because I don't have the continuity. Kids come, kids don't come, and all that stuff. But this is a curriculum, and I talked to actually a few parents and teachers that Saturday mornings were the best time because they don't have school, and they don't have all this other stuff, hopefully, right? But it's more of a continuation so you can track and you can actually help them from the last week that we talked about because, you know, when they don't show up for another month, you don't know where they're at, right? So it's more of like a course, it's a curriculum. That's why I decided to break it out this way, and there's so much more I know that I can do because of what I've already done with the adults when it's a mastermind group with leadership principles back behind it, okay? Now, what's next? Part of this whole Young Leadership Academy, what I've done, because I'm connected with the chamber, I've already talked to some business owners that would love to intern the students. But there isn't that bridge, there isn't that connection. Like, it's a great idea, right? You've heard a lot of great ideas, but somebody's got to do it, right? Well, they're like, well, you can do it, Kasama. I said, well, yeah, I could, right? But here's the thing, if they have, like, I know one of the students, I don't know if it's you or your brother, who says they're interested in architect. Or is that Cleo? Yeah. interested in but if they could get into an architecture, can you imagine if they could get internship in that, get their hands on, and maybe architect is not their thing. Why go through college for 4 years to find out, oh, that happened to me. Happened to a lot of people. They end up, how many of you are doing what you graduated, parents? Graduated from college, and you're doing exactly what you graduated from. One person. Thank you, Pam, for being that representation, right? So, most of us end up finding our way through this maze, right? But if they could just intern, and the businesses are willing to work with them, but we need to screen through the applications to make sure they're committed, right? So they're not just popping in and they never show up again. And I think this is the best way to groom them, because you're grooming their character about commitment, integrity, all of those things. And who knows, they may get hired right out of the gate. So there's many businesses actually in our community that are interested in doing that. They just don't want to go through the screening process, like how do you get to the kids? Entrepreneurship mindset, we're going to be talking about that. I always bring that in because you know what? I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years, and they're goods and bads, but I'm not going to take it out of the box. Why? Because 50% of the kids are not going to have jobs. There are not jobs available for all the kids. Job placement, digital portfolio for high school. When I sat with the school district, they actually said, there's one high school in Napa Valley Unified School District that actually every single kid comes out with a digital portfolio, which means the service projects in the community that they do, it gets digitally archived, whether there's a video of it or some kind of social media thing where it can be accessed. And that's how the colleges are selecting these kids, because they're ready to go. They're marketed, right? So we're going to create some of those projects for the kids around that as well. One of the things that we kind of kicked around, and I met with the team of counselors and teachers at the high school is, bullying is an issue that gets brought up, right, at every school. And I thought maybe we could do like a skit. Have the kids create a skit, the whole scenario, and video it. And this could be a viral thing, right? Other kids might go, hey, that's cool, I want to do that kind of skit video. But something constructive and creative and teaching their peers to make a difference. Don't you guys think that's cool?
It's real cool.
So when I said that, they all looked at me and said, well, Kasama, you should do that. And I'm like, I could, but I have to be able to, create it around their personal project. Service and community projects, right? Relay is a great example. Now we're coming out, right? Yesterday I was at the Kiwanis and I had a few of the students there speaking and they're excited and the Kiwanis like, we would love to work with those kids. Do you know how many organizations, service community organizations, would love to be able to embrace and work with the students? There's no that connection so that the kids can actually, like, how do they get to the Kiwanis meeting, right? Somebody has to invite them. But that's the kind of stuff that I want to be able to do more, and especially mentoring the high schoolers with the middle schoolers, right? Some kind of pair mentoring, so that there's that, but it has to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It has to be moderated, right? Somebody has to moderate it. It doesn't just happen and they're just going to stick together. There has to be coaching behind all of that and mentoring. So that's the kind of stuff that I see in the, unfolding as the chapters unfold, and I know that some of the kids would love this. It may not be for every student, but you know what? For the ones who do, can you imagine the kind of role models they would be when they go into the real world, okay? Oh, I just turned the screen on. Okay, so how are the classes structured? It's a weekly class of practical, hands-on, engaging environment facilitated by yours truly. The curriculum is designed to be in alignment. This is key, because when I met with the Unified School District, they said, if you got this stuff, we're behind you. Like, we want to help, talk about your program if you have these things, which we actually have been doing. Okay, the 4 C's. Are you familiar with the 4 C's, right? Critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and natural creativity. That's exactly the kind of stuff we do. It's all non-conventional kind of learning. It's them coming off their seats and actually creating things, right? Would you agree? Okay. What they will learn, now I'm going to kind of just, okay. All of these are on the postcards that were given to you or will be given to you that Jasmine has in the back, okay? So I'm going to go through this real quick, but those are the elements. And I carefully sat down and thought about this because I want to be clear on what this is about. Success habits, becoming a difference maker, the power of mentoring, in life. to get somewhere that you really want to go, you got to be mentored by the people who are there already, or read from them, or be influenced by them, right? Seeking that out. That's a process in itself. And developing self-esteem. And what will they receive? Accountability is key. It's about somebody who actually wants to keep them on track, right? I mean, how many of you go to the gym and you're like, I'm not going to go, but when nobody cares if you go or not, you stop going, right? Because hard stuff, you don't keep doing. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be doing. Upcoming events, community leadership events. This is sort of like my vision. You know how some of the kids, how many of you have like taken the bus to a leadership conference in another city, like an hour away, right? I've heard about this. I'm thinking, why can't we do it here, right? Why not here? So I already talked to the director of Parks and Rec. We could have the community gym. You see, I really want to make this happen. It's been a lot of work, but I'm excited about it. We could put an event, a community gym event. I'm already out there seeking corporate sponsorships. Alpha Bank is one of the corporate sponsors. And they love it. They're like, yeah, whatever you're doing, let's do this. So it's going to be a community event where the first half is going to be the middle schoolers and the high schoolers together, and then we're going to break out